with demand expected to come back, the question remains, does this mean the economy is back on track?
Companies now, after experimenting with offshore in places like India, Philippines, and Poland, want to bring those jobs back.
We invest in the U.S. We're the biggest exporter in the country. In the cycle we're in right now, we're creating jobs.
From Radio America, it's Neil Asbury's Made in America, the show that explores American industry, large and small, and promotes American-made products everywhere. Put Neil Asbury's Made in America to work for you.
A very big welcome to you today. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. So, Rich, you know, every election, it seems like it's the most important election of our lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Except this is.
Except this is. Exactly.
We say that every few years. But this one really is.
This one is. So, folks,
trust us on that. This is it.
So, folks, you got to believe us. This is the one. This is the time. Because it's just not about a different flavor of American democracy that we're talking here. We're talking about socialism becoming mainstream in American politics. And I just can't imagine that. I mean, even, you know, a short while ago, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, I mean, just to call someone a socialist, I mean, in politics, I mean, that was a kiss of death. I mean, they would not go anywhere. But in the Democrat Party today, I mean, that's very much in, you know, and it's very much in. You look at this platform, how left it has gone. Now, I don't even know if it's socialism anymore. I mean, we're approaching even something worse than socialism with the modern day Democrat Party. This is really important. Economic freedom versus having a stranglehold over your dreams, the American dream, the things that we all cherish for ourselves and our family, our neighbors, our country is on the line, Rich.
Yeah, I think people have to understand this really is happening, and we have to take this enormously seriously. So when you go vote, you know, people say, well, what can I do, Rich? And they call me up and say, no, we do this radio show, plus we're involved. And I say, well, I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to go and vote. I don't want you to do a ballot. I don't want you to mail anything because I don't trust it. But I want you to go to your polling place and take 5 or 6 people with you. I want you to make sure your best friends, their best friends, all go to the polling place, take some water because you're going to stand online, and God bless it, that's great. That means a lot of people are going to be voting. But you must do it. You must do it. This is the most serious moment in our American history. Listen, I got to tell you something. I think of Bunker Hill when I think of this right now. I think of the American Revolution. I think that some men in those days took a shot. They didn't have socks. Some didn't have shoes. They had a musket. They went out. They had a vision. They had a dream, and a great general called George Washington. And they went out and they took the shot. They took the risk against the strongest army in the world. We have to take that risk. We have to get out. We're going to stand in the rain. We're going to do whatever we have to do because we have to do that because we're the patriots. We are the guys who died on Normandy. If they could do that, then we can get out and we can stand somewhere in Pompano and vote. You can do that.
Or anywhere across this great country.
That's right.
So, you know, as a talk show host, it's really great because we get to talk to really fascinating people, and especially, you know, during election season. And we've had really, really great people. I don't know, Marco Rubio, the first time he did national radio.
We did the first national interview with Marco Rubio.
Was us. I mean, that's before anybody knew who Marco Rubio was. I didn't know who Marco Rubio was. And lo and behold, he pulled it off. And so we're really proud of our heritage of talking to a lot of really great leaders in our country. And we're very pleased right now to have someone on who's out there fighting the fight. She needs our support. She's got a really, really tough opponent. She's doing well. She's going to pull this off. We're very pleased to have with us Maria Salazar, who, before running for Congress, is a journalist, a broadcast TV anchor. She worked for the Spanish language network Telemundo for 3 years, and she's running against Donna Shalala, who was the ex-University of Miami president, and I first got introduced to her when she was in the Clinton administration. She's got a very tough opponent, but she has it. She's going to do this. She's going to pull it off, and you're going to see why right now. Maria, welcome to Made in America.
Thank you very much for having me. My pleasure.
So Maria, I mean, I hate to do hyphenated stuff, but you are a Cuban American, and we all know in South Florida, and by the way, your district that you're running for includes the beautiful South Florida city of Coral Gables and surrounding areas. But you're originally a Cuban American. You come from Cuba. Your family came from Cuba. You're here. You see in the Democrat Party today what they're doing. Socialism. They're embracing socialism. You've gone toe to toe with Castro and Maduro. You know what socialism is all about. You know the evil of socialism, and you're out there fighting the fight right now. So tell us, what is the state of your campaign, and why are the Democrats in embracing socialism, and what danger is that for them?
Well, and you're absolutely correct. The Democratic Party has been hijacked by the far left, and they haven't realized it, but we have, because we know black after you have lived white, or in other words, you have a point of comparison, meaning us, the Cuban Americans, we have a point of comparison. And we see the signs. 20 years ago, Venezuela, Hugo Chavez promised to the Venezuelans democratic socialism. And today, 20 years after, the average American, or the average Venezuelan, I should say, weighs 15 pounds less because of lack of food. That happened in our continent only 20 years ago to the country who still has the largest reserves of oil in the world. Because that dogma, that economic plan, is a failure. It's fraud. It's a lie. And that's why I think that you're doing a great job in informing everybody that unfortunately, so many people are so confused because the youngsters nowadays believe that socialism is social media. And it's going to destroy us if we allow for those forces to come into this country and start chiseling away at our institutions, which is what we hear. This is what we hear all the time, that that the institutions are there to protect us. They will chisel, sorry, yes.
No. You know what? And you're 100% correct. And you know what I found interesting during the RNC convention, which I thought was spectacular that week. I didn't like the idea of virtual, but I got to tell you, I think they pulled it off 100%. And one of the most stunning. Now I'm in South Florida. I've been in South Florida media for many, many, many years. I spent 27 years in Latin America with two of my products, Latin Trade Magazine and Latin CEO. So I'm in and out and in part of the World Trade Center since 1987. So I'm all over Latin America. And I see in Latin America the socialism that was rampant. Think about it. The disparity in the 80s when I started with this stuff was remarkable in Latin America. When I was watching the RNC and Mr. Martinez made a very passionate plea, I am hearing, so he said, I am hearing the same lies that my parents heard in Cuba. The same lies. We're going to give you this free. We're going to give you that free. You're going to be able to do this. We're going to have parity. There's not going to be the haves and the have-nots. And here is a man, remarkably, people will risk their lives coming through the Florida Straits to get away from that, whatever it is, disaster in Cuba.
Correct.
And then that, to me, was the most remarkable 5 to 7 minutes of the RNC, because it came from the heart and it came from the intellect.
Indeed, and we know Max Alvarez very well, and he's a very good friend, and everything he said, not only he lived through it, but my parents and millions of other Cubans who have been listening to me have been going through that same experience. And that is the reason why I'm running for Congress in District number 27, which happens to be the heart of the Cuban exile community, the city of Miami. And that's why the lady who is representing us right now is completely, not only she is corrupt, but she has been completely absent and silent. She's not around. She hasn't been around the district. No one has really seen her because her sense of entitlement is so immense that she thought that we are just citizens that she doesn't have to cater to or to represent well in Congress. That's a sense of entitlement from the Clinton Foundation because Donna Shalala was the longest-serving member of the Clinton government. So she's a Clintonite, and we know what that means.
So what specifically would you do to help businesses, and small businesses particularly, because they are the backbone of our economy? How would you help them in a way that they're not being helped today?
Well, that's a very good question, and you're going to the heart of my platform, which is that I want to create a division, an employment division within my congressional office. And I want to give the opportunity to those small business owners who are probably Hispanic, the overwhelming majority of them, to become a client of the federal government. Because there are thousands and thousands of programs or categories, I should say, that the federal government buys from the small business industry. 25% of the $500 billion that the federal government dedicates to buy from small business industry has to come from minorities. 25%, that's around $175 billion. My people don't know that, and that is really achieving the American dream, being able to do business with the government.
Very good point. Hey, Maria, please stick with us. We still have a lot to talk about. We're together with Maria Salazar, running for Congress in South Florida, a very, very important district, running against, well, you said it right, from the Clinton Foundation. And if there's anything more corrupt than that, I don't know what it is. She's with us, Maria Salazar. Stick around.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman, and we're together with Maria Salazar. She's running for Congress in South Florida. She's a journalist, a broadcast TV anchor. She worked with the Spanish language network Telemundo for 3 years. Telemundo, very, very strong, very, very powerful throughout Latin America, and she's running against Donna Shalala from the Clinton years. And she just pointed out the longest-serving member of the Clinton administration, and that means the Clinton Foundation. And Dr. Rothman and I have done a lot of shows about the corruption of the Clinton Foundation and cronyism and what that means for the American economy. And robbing,
and you know what? It was so easy.
And robbing our jobs.
It was so easy.
And robbing
Scratch
our jobs.
the surface.
So, Maria, I got to ask you this. Telemundo, you were there for 3 years, but when I think about Telemundo, they just seem like so left, and a lot of the folks that they're broadcasting to are suffering so much from socialist regimes and the corruption and the cronyism, and yet it seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, and that's what I'm going to ask you. Is Telemundo? Are they part of this socialism hoax that's going on?
Well, when I used to work there, it was true journalism. And unfortunately, journalism has been gone, or we've lost the American School of Journalism theories in the overwhelming majority of the news media in this country. That's reality. Now we have commentators. We do not have journalists. There is an agenda, specifically in CNN and in the New York Times and the Washington Post, where you really see the tendency against this administration, the tendency against the conservative ideas, and that's very disturbing, because people deserve to receive the news like Walter Cronkite used to read it. You give the facts, and we are no one to tell you what to think or how to think. We're just informing what's happening, and then you create your own opinion. That doesn't exist anymore, including Spanish television, but not during the time when I was on it. I was there for 35 years. I was one of the founders of Spanish television in this country around 1983, when Spanish television did not exist. And we have provided a fantastic service to the audience, but right now we're doing a disservice because we are not informing, or they are not informing the correct way. And all you see is negativism towards the Republican Party.
Well, that's exactly correct. Let me pick up on something, because I think it's really important with what we've got left. And that is, to me, the Hispanics are very important for this election. And of all the groups in the United States, particularly the Hispanics, the Cubans in South Florida, I have to say that, and half of the people I work with are of that group. They totally understand, Maria, totally, 110% understand the American dream. When you talk to people like the Pedro Pan folks, like Omanta Codina, a good friend of mine, or Ralph De La Vega, who used to run, Bell Southland and AT&T, and you listen to and Fernandez, from the Coral Gables. When you listen to these people, they totally understand, and they want that ability, they want that freedom to grow the jobs, to grow the economy, to grow their dream, and I think those are the ones who are supporting you, and I would think. And we're so lucky that you're running for the 27th district, and I have all the great hopes for you. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us what you're doing in the time that's left in the next few weeks to really ensure the fact that, we're going to celebrate you in a few weeks.
Yeah, and I thank you for that opportunity. I need all the help I can get so I can continue on television, and I can cover all my responsibilities of a campaign. Running for Congress is running in general. It's very, very laborious. It's a great sacrifice. Most people do not understand what it means. But you see, you got to do it, because if you don't do politics, politics will do you. And that's what happened to the Cubans, that they gave politics and they gave the destinies of the country to people that only wanted to grab power. And that's what happened with the Cubans. So I remember hearing that politics was just not for us since I was a little girl. And that is one of the reasons that I was inspired to say, oh, no, you got to get into politics so you can assure your kids' future under capitalism, under freedom and democracy. And that's the reason why I'm doing it. But I cannot do it alone. And that's why I ask everybody who's listening to me to go to Salazar27.com. Salazar27 is the number of the district.com. And to help me in any way they can. I want to stay on television, and I need that help to get to go to the finish line.
Well, very, very good. And, will you be making any appearances in the next week or so that we could come and see you?
I'm going to be running around the district. As early voting starts on Monday, so that means that for 12 hours, those precincts are opened, and everybody that is listening to me that lives in South Florida needs to go vote, because there is no victory without votes. You need to go and cast your ballot and defend this country, because like you said at the beginning, this is one of the most important, I would say is the most important election in my lifetime. After the Cuban Revolution, after the Venezuelan Revolution, socialism and the far left can penetrate anything. It's like a virus, and we got to stop it before it happens.
Well, Maria, I can't do better than that. You summed it up very, very well. I appreciate you. We all appreciate you. You're fighting the fight. You're going to be victorious. We're going to celebrate you. Maria Salazar, running for Congress, Florida 27. She's in a real battle with Donna Shalala and all the Clinton money and all the corruption and everything that comes with that.
And where do people go again to commit and do something?
Salazar27.com, or they can go to mariasalazar.com too, or Salazar27.com, or mariasalazar.com.
Well, folks, there you got it. Please support Maria. We need her more than ever. Maria, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks to you for the opportunity, and God bless the United States. It's the last bastion of freedom in the world. We know it because we come from the other end, and we need to save this land.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for that. Coming up, we have John Malcolm from the Heritage Foundation, And, Rich, we're going to pivot a little bit, and we're going to go to the Supreme Court and what's going on with Amy Barrett and potentially a vote coming up here very soon, a very, very important vote, but this time to confirm a Supreme Court justice. Stay with us.
Made in America.
Sharply higher at the open, stocks continued to perform well over the course of the day Tuesday.
And I think that bodes well here over the next couple of years for having bigger demands coming to this country.
Now, more of Neil Asbury's Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Ruffin. Rich, I mean, as a radio guy, it's always great to talk to people like Maria Salazar running for Congress.
She's magnificent. We must get her in.
In South Florida,
we must get her in
against a real Democrat icon, Donna Shalala. 15 years, the president of Miami, University of Miami. I mean that's in South Florida, University of Miami. I mean that's a very, very important thing. I mean people.
Well, particularly in the district where she's at, because it's a major university in that district, and not only that, it's one of the largest employers in South Florida.
And in the state,
a lot of power.
In the state, especially if they got a good football team. But University of Miami, it's a place to be very proud of, and then on top of that, of course, Donna Shalala, the Clinton administration, and we all know what happened during the Clinton administration, but more importantly, we also know what happened after the Clinton administration with the Clinton Foundation. I mean,
95% of the Clinton Foundation of their expenditures was for expense.
Right, and
the
money
5% went to the people.
Well, it went to the charities and the things that they were supposed to ostensibly be supporting.
It doesn't work that way. You can't get away with that with United Way right here in South Florida.
Well,
you got thrown out.
That was a sham.
Oh my God,
an incredible sham. But you know what else is a sham? Is the Supreme Court hearings that's going on with Amy Barrett. But boy, what a composed
ACB.
What a composed and what a very elegant woman. I mean,
she's magnificent.
Just very
She's
elegant.
Becoming my hero. I have to tell you that.
Just very elegant.
She's so cool. She sits there. She listens to these idiots, and they are Hirono from Hawaii.
Oh man!
I think
there's something wrong with her.
Listen, let me tell you something. When I was a kid growing up in New York City, and they tracked you, so when you went to like third grade, you were in like 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, the smart kids. If you were in 313, you went right to the Department of Sanitation, and that's where you worked. She was in that group. She was in 313. I hate to sound that way, but
she's just a vicious
woman.
I
am stunned. I mean, what is wrong with her? I know what it is. They're smoking too much dope. Because how could they elect a person like that? She's an absolute idiot.
Okay.
I'm just saying it the way it is. Sorry. I taught college. She's a moron. Right?
Well, they're trying to get that moron vote, right?
Yeah, that's We're trying to be eclectic about it. Even the idiots have to get a vote.
But let's talk about this because, we do have the confirmation hearing that's going on. We have a vote set for October 22nd. And we do have as our next guest, John Malcolm from the Heritage Foundation. John, welcome to Made in America.
Good to be with you, gentlemen.
So, what is the headline here for you about what's going on with Amy in this sham confirmation hearing and in the crazies that have come out for this?
Well, look, she was poised. She was the very model of judicial temperament. I mean, to be able to sit there for 3 days. First day, granted, she had the advantage of being behind a mask, but nonetheless, to sit there for 3 days and to listen to those sorts of questions and maintain her composure, and her answers were reasoned and thoughtful and scholarly. Actually, if you listened to her, you learned a lot about constitutional law and interpretation, and you also learned an awful lot about her character and her family and the life she's lived, and very, very impressive. And it is inevitable that she is going to be confirmed. It's so much so that the Democrats essentially conceded that and instead played to other themes. They were playing for their election themes. We heard a lot about Obamacare and threats to Roe versus Wade and what happens if there's an election dispute and about gun control. They weren't raising these issues in any realistic hope, or expectation that they were going to take down the nominee. So they were playing to a broader audience for different purposes.
Well, they sure as heck didn't do what they did to Kavanaugh. They didn't dare go down that route. I mean, when you think about it, some of the people who were raving about her today, as a matter of fact, towards the end, they called her brilliant, forthright, an intellectual giant. And then the Democrats came back and said she's a threat to health care. She's a threat to the environment.
To humanity.
Wait a minute. The best one was that puppies will die. they went as low as that. Puppies will get sick and die. You can't let that happen. Don't nominate this one. It's just terrible. The way they come.
Well, there certainly were not the attempts at character assassination that happened with Brett Kavanaugh. It would not have stuck. Probably the most poignant person to listen to, in addition to obviously her own family, has a child with Down syndrome, adopted 2 children from Haiti. If you listen to one of the witnesses today, Laura Woke, who was a student of then Professor Amy Coney Barrett, who is blind and was in desperate shape. Her equipment wasn't working. She was nervous. She was scared. She was new to law school and worried about how she would do. And she said that Professor Barrett listened to all of this and said, Laura, this is no longer your problem. This is my problem, and took it on and got the equipment for her that she needed and served as a mentor and source of inspiration to Laura Woke. And Laura went on to become the first completely blind law clerk at the Supreme Court, clerk for Clarence Thomas. And that attests to her character. So they had, at the end of the questioning yesterday, they went into a closed, confidential session where they hear about it, what the FBI had to say. This happens for all of the nominees. They apparently came out after 10 minutes, and both senators from both parties said, well, that was it. The FBI said that she has a spotless record. There are no concerns whatsoever. And they had to live with that. There were no skeletons rattling in Amy Coney Barrett's closet.
I want to pivot to another topic, but we're going to take a quick break before we do that. And that topic is she's going to get confirmed. We all believe that. Then the next thing is if the Democrats win, packing the court and what that means and what that would likely look like. We're together with John Malcolm, and he's from the Heritage Foundation. Still a lot more to talk about our court, the People's Court, the Supreme Court of the United States. Stay with us.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman, and we are together with John Malcolm of the Heritage Foundation, a legal expert, and he's walking us through what's going on with Amy Barrett and her confirmation. The vote set for October 22nd. Let's just stick on that for a second. The vote of October 22nd, John, any Democrats going to vote for her?
No, not in committee and not on the floor. She's not going to get a single Democratic vote.
So Manchin, he's going to just be quiet, and I'm sure that the folks in West Virginia would definitely support her as being the nominee, or not nominee, the actually being confirmed. But he's going to go against his constituents. Is it going to be Susan Collins is going to vote no, and will Murkowski in Alaska vote no as well?
Well, so if there were going to be a Democrat to vote for her, my guess is it would be Joe Manchin. But given all of the complaints about the process and how this is being rushed through, et cetera, I just don't see any of the Democrats crossing over. Susan Collins is a no vote. She announced that she was going to vote no even before there was a nominee. She said, I object to this whole process going forward. Now I will be a no vote. Lisa Murkowski objected to the process but has not said that she will be a no vote. But even if she is a no vote, that still leaves 51 Republican senators, and I would be shocked if any of the remaining 51 Republican senators did not vote for her. And frankly, all it would take is 50, because even if it was a 50-50 tie, then Vice President Pence would break the tie. So I don't see any way that this nominee gets defeated.
So let me ask you, John. The word quorum has been bantered about for the last few days.
Right.
and the Democrats are saying, well, we just won't show up, and they won't have a quorum. How does that play out?
Well, so the rules of the committee, in order to have a quorum, require that there be 2 Democrats in attendance. And I expect that the Democrats are going to be, they forecast what they're going to do. All the Democrats will get up and walk out. But apparently the committee rules then say that if a majority, as long as there is a majority present and they vote to proceed, that they can have a vote and send it to the floor of the Senate. So they can simply change the rule to prevent obstruction of the committee proceedings. And if all the Republicans on the committee, as I expect they will, show up and say, we're going to vote anyway, that gets it to the floor of the Senate. Now, in terms of the floor of the Senate, there has to be a quorum. That means 51 senators have to be present and voting in order for a vote to occur. But as I just said, I think that there will be 51 votes for Amy Coney Barrett. And I actually think that even Susan Collins, who's a no voter, Lisa Murkowski, even if she was a no vote, that even if they said they were going to vote against her, would still show up. They would not deprive her of a vote. So, yeah, the quorum rules are there, and the Democrats are going to do everything they can to try to, cause there to be a loss of a quorum, but I don't think that'll succeed.
And do you think this could go past October 22nd?
Well, no, I think that so they had a markup this morning, and the reason they had the markup this morning is that the Democrats are entitled to a week delay after the markup. Usually they have the hearing, they have a markup a week later, and so that usually puts things off a week. But they didn't. They had the markup this morning before the witnesses appeared. So next Thursday, there will be a vote in committee. The Democrats can't delay it beyond that, and then there will be a debate, and I think they are shooting to get a vote on the floor of the Senate on October 27th.
And then when that happens, just for the folks out there, the minute she's approved, she joined. When did she get sworn in? She has to get sworn in right away, I would think.
She does, but that'll happen right away. I mean, the Chief Justice will go over to the White House. They'll have a quiet investiture ceremony. She is then officially on board, and at some point in the future, they'll have a formal ceremony at the Supreme Court.
For the press
she will be on the court.
The press.
Yeah, I expect she'll be sworn in within an hour after she's confirmed.
The car's waiting.
Right.
So in the time we have left, fill us in on packing the court. And, the Democrats could really do that. I mean, the Constitution does not prevent them from doing that, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So the Constitution says that there shall be a Supreme Court and such other lower courts as Congress may provide. There is nothing in the Constitution that sets the number of Supreme Court justices. The number was originally set at 6. At one point, for a 3-year period, it got as high as 10. But for over 150 years now, it's been 9. And that has been set by statute. So what the Democrats have threatened to do is that if they keep control of the House and they take control of the Senate and they take control of the White House, they will nuke. So they will blow up the legislative filibusters. The nominations filibuster was already, the nuclear option was done with respect to nominations, but they will exercise the nuclear option to blow up the legislative filibuster. And if they do that, just takes 50 senators plus the vice president breaking a tie, pass a piece of legislation, the House will vote for it, the Senate will approve it, President will sign it, and then they have a new statute that says there will be 11 or 13 Supreme Court justices. And for that matter, they could increase the number of judges on the lower courts, too, to try to, to change over some of the changes that President Trump has made with his successful appointment of a lot of constitutionalist judges.
Well, it seems that I think they're going to do that in a heartbeat because that really gives them insulation that they need. But what's really ironic is the last time that was tried was with FDR. And his own party stopped him from doing that. There were people who loved the country and the Constitution so much, they said, this isn't going to happen. I think today,
that is true.
2021, it's a different ballgame. These folks are committed.
Totally different ballgame.
Yeah, they're committed to do this.
Yeah, look, it's certainly a radical change. It would take the Senate from being the most deliberative body to not being deliberative at all, and they could push through a lot of their agenda. Packing the court would just be one of those things. The only time anyone's ever threatened to pack the court was in the 1930s with FDR, as you pointed out. And even though he had the votes in the House and the Senate, they rebelled against that.
Hey, John, we have just one more segment left, but this is too fascinating because I got a couple of more questions for you, and you're really spot on with your answers. Can you stay with us for about 3 or 4 minutes more?
Sure.
Yeah, we're with John Malcolm from the Heritage Foundation. Still a couple of things to talk. I want to talk about the Senate and potentially a couple of more states, and what the constitutionality of that would look like.
Well, this is what's at risk.
This is,
exactly.
this is like huge.
Yeah.
Stay with us, John Malcolm from the Heritage Foundation.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. Rich and I have done, I don't know how many shows, a tremendous amount of shows over the years, and we always sum up the show in the last few minutes. And we've never violated
We've
never deviated from that.
That's right.
But this conversation, I think, is so important that we're going to have John join us again and answer a few more questions on the constitutionality of what the Democrats are up to. And it's really scary stuff. John Malcolm from the Heritage Foundation. John, we talked about, going nuke with the filibuster and packing the court. I have a couple of questions about adding new states, but just to kind of end the packing of the court, Biden won't say, what he thinks on that. Now, in the past, he says that he doesn't believe in that, and he even inferred that even just as of recently in some sort of nuanced way that he didn't believe in that. If he says that he doesn't
favor it,
doesn't favor it.
It's a very weak word,
right? If he doesn't favor it,
weak verb, favor
right.
it.
So if he says that he favors it, he's going to lose all the folks in the center. If he says that he doesn't favor it, he's going to lose all the radical lefties. I mean, he's in a pickle, and he's coasting. He's just trying to get to Election Day. So what do you think? I mean, are they going to do it? Are they going to pack the court? Is Biden going to go along with it? And will he get the 50 senators on his party, assuming they have a two-seat majority? Will he be able to get 50 of them to say yes?
Yeah, that's hard to say. So back in 1983, Joe Biden said that packing the court was a bonehead idea. And then recently said, well, you'll have to tune in until the day after the election, the day after I win the presidency, to see how I'm going to, what I'm going to do. And that answer wasn't playing so well. So lately he's being too cute by half. He's saying, well, I'm not really a fan of the idea, but he's not doing much. It is a very radical thing. I mean, so the Democrats blew up the nominations filibuster, except for Supreme Court justices, in November of 2013 in order to pack the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, which they did successfully. And they lived to regret that decision, because then the Republicans just extended it to Supreme Court justices when they tried to filibuster Neil Gorsuch, who was eminently qualified for the court. And I think that they've lived to regret that decision. But, they may very well do it this time around. Their base appears to be demanding it, and perhaps they are just betting on the fact that the Republicans will never again take control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency and be able to do to them what they would do to the country if they get the opportunity.
Well, exactly that, and that's the very steep downside is if they win right now. Just the reality. You may see one-party rule for a very, very long time or forever. I mean, if you listen to some of the pundits that are out there, they're saying it's over. Two-party rule is over. Something that's worked with us for hundreds of years is not going to happen anymore. I really hope the folks out there understand what's at risk with this.
But I think. Well, I'm just going to say this. I think that the risk, though, with the electorate 2 years later, after doing something as radical as that, I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath. But I guess by then it's too late, right, John?
Well, the problem is that once you end up, say, creating a new agency or creating a new law, I mean, there's some bells that you can't unring. And you were mentioning before in the break at the Democrats' desire to have D.C. turn into a state and Puerto Rico to turn into a state. Well, if they do that, then they get 2 more representatives and 4 more senators. And, that would be a very difficult thing to undo as well. So there's no question. If we think our country is very divided now and and quite partisan, just wait.
So the constitutionality of D.C. becoming a state. And I've read, numbers of things on that. That looks like it's dicey. That looks to me like getting D.C. statehood would be a constitutional issue. And I guess if you control the Supreme Court, you can take it to the Supreme Court and you'll win because they pack the court. But if the court stays the way it is today, I don't think that D.C. could become a state. Puerto Rico, I think they have a better shot at that. That's just my reading of it. What do you say, John?
Yeah, so I know that there is some debate about whether an constitutional amendment would be required to make D.C. a state. I'm just not as up on that as perhaps I'll need to be in the near future. But I do think that turning Puerto Rico into a state would be a much easier matter.
Yeah, and that's also scary. Even if they got one of them through, that would be like completely scary. So, I mean, this is bizarre stuff, folks. So much is at stake. Your jobs are at stake, and unfortunately, we're out of time. But we're going to be back again next week for another adventure of Made in America, where we never, ever stop fighting for your jobs.